Well, hello, fellow tortured poets. Welcome to another episode of the Tortured Poets Podcast. We are your hosts, Justine Sones and Mallory Jardine. Mallory, what is top of mind for you today?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that I am actually enjoying a drink with you this time. This is the first time. It doesn't really count as a drink because it is girls' night out wine that my husband bought me for Mother's Day last year. That I have not drank until now because it's basically juice. Um, but I didn't want to open any of my red wine bottles and waste the bottle by just having a glass tonight. So here we are.
I
It's
admire
started.
your restraint.
Um, Top of my mind, couple things. What I really want to get into, and now our girl Taylor is on a break from her Eras tour. So I thought, you know what? Maybe we will have a little break from the Taylor talk, which we won't because we still will have things to talk about. And we always circle back to Taylor. But another topic that is just itching at my brain that I just would love to dive into with you is that Justin Timberlake just released a new album this week. And I've
Hmm.
got thoughts. I'm sure we have thoughts.
So
So
I
before I
actually
get to
have
that,
no thoughts yet because I just found out about this album when you told me. Continue.
but not necessarily about the album, I want to go into dive into other
Yes.
avenues of the subject that is Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
multifaceted. The
Yes.
album is just what triggered this topic.
Yes.
Anyway, before that though, there is there is some Taylor that I want to dish out on. Did you see that the album track list with the times of all the songs was released today?
I did see that.
I don't know if it's real. Again, we can't trust anything on TikTok.
Mm-mm.
I tried to look through comments, could not figure out one way or another. Nobody really knew if it was real or not. Did you see how long track number 5 is? Is it track number 5?
I mean, track five is like the
London?
deepest. Yeah. So Long London. I did
So
not
long, London?
see.
9 minutes and 28 seconds. I'm assuming with that facial expression, you know the significance of 9:28. I did not, disclaimer, I did not until I saw this on TikTok today. But
9:28.
9:28 is September 28th, and apparently it's Joe and Taylor's anniversary. Now remember, we don't know if this is true. It has not been confirmed. It has not been confirmed by Taylor Nation. It has not been confirmed by Taylor Swift. It's just out there.
Oh, then I'm
But
like
are we
not
gonna
super.
get another? Are we gonna get another all too well? Because I was giddy.
I
I need another
hope
10-minute
so.
belter from my car.
I hope so, especially because like getting the 5 minute version of All Too Well was already like a track to fall in love with. Like
Yep.
it was a novel in and of
It was
itself.
already a blessing in
But
our
then to
life.
get the rest of it and uncover all of it, and then to think you get all of that right away. Ooh.
And like, girl must have went off.
Oh yeah.
Imagine the juice that's gonna be in that track.
Oh my
Look at everything we got
Lanta.
with All Too Well. Like, Joe is the new Jake. Is Joe the new Jake?
No, they're going to be different because I think that Jake is going to be as much as I think of him as her first genuine heartbreak. Like when I categorize the big like known exes of Taylor Swift,
Mhm.
um, I think of like the first Joe and Taylor being like the childhood boyfriends kind of like teenage crush whatever. And then John Mayer was her like breaking into the adult scene and being like I don't want to just say taken advantage of, but we know what I mean when I say
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Um
Yeah.
and then I think that Jake was the kind of heartbreak that like she really truly saw something with him and it was like the first one that really left a mark. But that
Yeah.
said, it was still a small pocket. I think that Joe is going to be the kind of thing that she's going to carry with her. Like it's the
Oh,
kind
by
of
all means,
heartbreak that
she's a
like you
whole
learn to
new
live with, right?
it was a whole different ballpark of a relationship because she was actually a woman in a relationship and she was with
Yes.
this guy for 6 years. I mean, that's your common law at that point. Like, you're
Yes.
pretty much married without the papers.
Hey, honey, I'm actually recording a podcast episode.
Oh, which one is
What
it?
about it's Wolfie?
Hi, Wolfie.
Buffy's in my purse, in my bag on the beanbag chair. Yep, still safe and sound. Can you please close the door behind you? Thank you.
Who is Buffy? And you
Uh,
know the significance to me of this.
Well, here's the thing. Buffy has only been significant for about 3.5 hours. Buffy is this
Shoot,
random
not in
little
my life. Buffy's been significant for about the past like 20 years in my life.
100%. In this case, Buffy is like foam buffalo toy that we've had kicking around for ages that he's all of a sudden become attached to. He went for a walk to the park and like left Buffy in my care while I was working, like in my bag watching me,
Oh, you
you
thank you
know?
for
Yeah.
Buffy.
I mean, it is what it
Well, for
is.
our dear listeners, Buffy was the name of my very first dog, and
Mm-hmm.
she was something special. Anyway,
Yes.
before we get
Yes.
into that, I'm drinking wine. I don't need to cry. Um,
Well, we didn't
speaking of
even,
crying, back to all too well.
yeah.
Anyways, what I was saying is clearly Joe is not the new Jake in the sense of the relationship.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, in the sense of like, are we going to get all the tea? Are you going to tell us the whole story in 9 minutes and 28 seconds and like a little nice little summary wrapped up in a package for your fans in a package of music notes and melody?
I fucking
We'll
hope
sing it
so.
with you, girl. We will sing it with you.
I, oh, I hope so. Like, I'm
We
so excited for this album, man. We're 1 month away from it today.
yesterday. Is it 18th or 19th? I thought it was the
19th.
18th. I thought it was
No,
the 18th
it's the 19th.
because I thought it was my nephew's birthday that it was coming out.
Do
That's
you
how I remember it. Very significant day.
I mean, we could look it up and confirm, but if I open up my phone, I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole and I'm really
Yeah, no,
trying
no,
to just
no,
like
no, no.
practice focus.
We don't do
So,
that.
I
We
think
don't.
it's the 19th. I'm
Okay.
open to being
Either
wrong.
way,
Yeah.
the
Either
19th,
way,
100% will be there and will be full-fledged tortured
yes.
poet.
Okay, and now I want to talk about, I know that we're still going to get into the thing that you want to talk about, and I think that this will end up
Oh,
linking.
but if we go into another route, that's okay too.
Yeah, because I think it's still all plans lead to that
Mhm.
end point. Um, so I was thinking about for people who aren't Swifties, it's hard to explain exactly why we love like the album releases and stuff so much, but it's because for me, I think it feels like you're part of something like bigger than yourself, like something collective, like we're sharing it with each other. So it's like the reactions being posted on TikTok and the comments and the like it is just it's so exciting. And so um I to take a step back, a lot of my work in addition to like writing and doing podcasting and all of this stuff, I was a self-care coach for a while. Okay. If you listen
Love
to the
that.
Friday Feels, then you'll understand. But I talk about managing different elements of our health, like physical health, mental health, and emotional health. People are like a little more versed in, but we don't necessarily have a language for spiritual health and how we take care of that.
Mhm.
And so I think of, physical health is obviously your physical body, things that you touch that can be measured, observed, whatever. The emotional is how your feelings exist and live in your body. So it's a very inside experience. Mental is, the thoughts that go through your head, the actual narrator of your life. But then spirituality is something outside of us, and that's the thing that connects us to each other.
Which
And
is
so,
so sorry, I just want to quickly say, like, um, in therapy, Sean and I did a session together just because Sean went through some stuff. He has PTSD, but that's a whole different thing.
mhm,
But the therapist pointed out that with him, he seems to have a lack of a spiritual connection. And
mhm,
he right away was quick to say, I don't mean like religion or
yes.
God or faith. I mean a connection to something deeper that connects us to other people. Not that he's like sociopathic and like just
No, but I think
empathize with people or anything. Of course he can. He's
but I think
paramedic.
that
But
sports can be a spiritual experience.
yeah, it's just being a part of something that's bigger than yourself that makes you feel bigger than yourself.
Yeah, and that connects you to each other, right? So
Which is how
so
you feel bigger than yourself. You
yes.
connect. with
And
other
so that is like that's where like I like to joke that being a Swiftie, it's like being indoctrinated into the church of Swiftianity. And it's like half a joke, but also half
should we say the prayer?
so
Another time, another time.
I forgot
I've
about
been
that.
dying. It's just in the back pocket.
Oh,
Eventually,
I
someday,
forgot about that. The Tail Lord's Prayer.
it'll
Um,
come.
and
Not today.
I want to be really clear here that like what I'm not doing is making Taylor an idol.
No,
I'm not saying that
this is
she's
all
a
in
god.
fun.
Well,
No.
but even like in fun and in all seriousness, like not to worship her or make her anything other than being a human, but like when I was a kid, I used to think that I loved going to like church retreats, like youth
Mhm,
retreats and stuff like
mhm.
that. And like it turns out I just loved live music and like singing with people. And I think
Yes.
that's something like an experience that we shared. And so anyway, all of that to
We don't
say,
mean to make Taylor a false god.
yeah, but
Um,
hold on.
anyhow,
Yeah.
yes. And I also think that another really exciting thing about when Taylor releases an album is that she's so autobiographical and she's very respectful to her fans with that. And like so many celebrities are closed off and we fantasize about what's going on in their lives. We try to make the narrative. Um, and a lot of celebrities can become very resentful about that
Mm-hmm.
and become very closed off and seem even that much further away than their
Mm-hmm.
base. But I feel like with Taylor, when she puts in a new album, it's almost like you're having a conversation with her about all the things that are going on. She's open. It's like you're her best friend, even though you've
Mm-hmm.
never met her. She treats you like that through her music.
Mm-hmm.
You hear my dog now? How annoying.
I didn't know if that was your dog or my dog.
It's Wendy. She's so annoying. I love her so much, but she's a yippy little thing.
Yeah.
Wendy!
Yeah. I know what
Harlow!
that's like.
The kids are really making cameos in this one. She's not. Let me just text my 10-year-old.
No, that's I'm just trying to think. What was I thinking? Oh, about the relationship that fans have with Taylor. It's really interesting. There's a lot of opinions about like parasocial relationships and like ones that are one-sided, right?
Mhm.
And this is in a lot of ways like celebrity is obviously a parasocial relationship. And from the beginning, Taylor taught us how to have conversations with her.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, like on that note with being excited about Tortured Poets, I forget if we talked about this on this podcast or just in WhatsApp, but I was saying that with the mashups that she was doing on tour, it's like she's being vulnerable with us in real time in a way that she hasn't in a really long time.
Yeah.
Even like
I
when
don't know if we talked
folklore,
about that on this podcast or not, but I remember the
yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
Mhm.
because it's like on Folklore and Evermore, like it was so the writing was so removed from her
Yes.
intentionally as a protective mechanism that
Yes.
like she said it was all make believe. And what I think is really interesting is that on the note of like emotional whatever in our body, something can be make believe in real life, but you can make it very real in your body,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know?
Well, it's
And
just like they say,
so
like, whatever you tell your subconscious cannot differentiate between reality and between thought. So your
mhm,
body responds to your subconscious as if that's the real thing that's happening.
mhm. And so I don't like to say necessarily that like Folklore and Evermore are autobiographical because she explicitly said that they weren't. And like I try to respect the narrative that she gives us as
Mhm.
much as possible. Um, but I just think like, yeah, and even Midnight's was such a cryptic album in some
Mhm.
ways. Once you see things unfold, it became very obvious. But at the
None of
time
us
it was very
knew that.
cryptic.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is just I think gonna be very
It's gonna
all
be
out
real.
there.
It's gonna be real and raw and exciting.
Mhm.
Exciting.
Yep.
Okay, so speaking of new albums.
Yes.
All right. So let's just preface this with the fact that you and I were die hard. I say were, are, well, NSYNC fans. I mean, we
Yeah.
were girls growing up in the
Yep.
early 2000s. how could we not be?
Yeah.
I remember a distinct time. You might kill me for saying this, but you
Oh
also
no.
love it because it's very endearing.
Oh no.
I remember a distinct time when I found you really, really upset, like visibly upset,
Hmm.
and you were dating DJ Varun at the time. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, like my recognition memory is better than my free recall. So
You were really upset because you felt bad that you were dating DJ, but you were so in love with Justin Timberlake.
it was an emotional affair.
Exactly. You felt like you couldn't give all of your emotions to DJ because you loved Justin. And you know what? I remember consoling you and being like, you know what? I love him too. Both DJ and Justin. So I get this. Unfortunately, I don't have to deal with, or unfortunately, I don't get to have either of them.
That
You at
is,
least have one. Be thankful.
and at the time I was signing my diary entries Justine Timberlake. That's where I thought you were going with
Yes.
that.
Oh,
I actually I
emotionally.
meant to bring my diary out to like share my Justin excerpts, but hilariously enough,
I just had a flashback to when I came to Vancouver and we were at the Airbnb apartment reading notes at the counter at the end of the night after we'd had some drinks, and we were reading your diary with Justin Timberlake excerpts. And yeah, it was very enjoyable, very healing.
it was a great time in my girlhood healing era.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually, after dropping you off at the airport, because that visit was actually incredibly
Oh,
healing.
oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
so one of the things that we again did is we went back and like read old notes and stuff like that. I had them all saved at my parents' house, and my mom, bless her heart, she packaged them up and sent them with Mallory to come out here for this visit. And so we, yeah, got an Airbnb and we like dumped out the bags and we sat there and read these notes together. And when I tell you in all like 100% seriousness, before we cracked the first note, we sat cross-legged, faced each other on the floor, held hands, and said, I am so sorry for the
Yes.
things that I said when I was like, ages 10 to 18, call it. Beyond that, I'm sure as well. Grant, like I think I regret most of what I said before the age of 30.
Yeah.
Like,
In general, about a
but
lot of
but
things.
but yeah, but specifically for that endeavor, because it was like I do not know what these notes hold.
We had a very, very interesting dynamic of a friendship because
Yes.
from what we learned and why this was such a healing process for us to do this was there was so much jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
But reading these notes and being able to reflect as an adult, there
Mm-hmm.
was realization of where that jealousy stemmed from. And a lot of it was just insecure little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard when one of your best friends also made you feel insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back, it was both of us. That was
Yep.
equally our experience with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was so healing to, as adults, sit down, read those words, and then be able to explain them as an adult and understand them as an adult because
Mm-hmm.
I have such vivid memories of the feelings of how I would feel when DJ would flirt with you and then you would lean into it knowing that I had a crush on him and vice versa with other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the distinct feelings. I had them all stored. They were still there. But being able to sit down with you as an adult, hearing your side of the story as an adult
Mm-hmm.
and then processing it from my inner child, like it was just man,
Mm-hmm.
that was a whole different type of therapy. And it was
Mm-hmm.
free, which was a bonus. Well, it wasn't, my flight wasn't free and the Airbnb wasn't free, but
Yeah, well, whatever. It's just girl math.
every
It was cheaper than therapy, we'll put it
yeah,
that way.
yes,
Like
exactly.
than the equivalent time spent in
The
therapy.
amount of therapy sessions I would have had
Yeah.
to take to
So
get through all that.
after I dropped you off at the airport that day, the whole way home, I listened to You're on Your Own, Kid on repeat and like scream sang and like cried. And then I like got home
Yes.
and like wiped my tears and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do it now. And then I burned a bunch of notes that were holding up a toxic place in my heart.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny because I found what sparked all this was that I was going through my memory box and I found an old diary. And this diary contained a lot of traumatic things that happened to me in my um early teens, like late
Mhm.
childhood. And I felt like the best thing to heal me from all that would be to spend time with the person who was right by my side when I was going through it. Be
Mhm.
able to tell you exactly what was going on in my head now that I'm an adult and I can understand it more. And when I was reading this diary, Sean was like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, this is crazy. Like, why
Mhm.
would you want to reflect on this stuff that hurts you? And that's when I was like, well, you know what? I want to go do this with Justine.
Mhm.
Justine will be able to hold my hand while I reflect on this, and she'll be able to empathize with me because she was there
Mhm.
to see it in real time. And she'll be able to
Mhm.
talk me through this healing.
Mhm.
And then once it was done, I didn't feel like I needed to burn or throw out any of that stuff. In fact, I almost feel like it means more to me to have it because now I feel stronger that I've reflected
Mhm.
on it and I've
Yeah.
got a new perspective on it. And rather
Mhm.
than read it and feel like that scared, tortured little girl, I feel like a strong, empowered woman that I can
Mhm.
look at that and tell my inner child, you did nothing wrong.
Mhm.
Right. Anyways,
Yeah.
oh, it was so, we'll do a
Yeah.
whole other episode on that kind of stuff. But
Yeah. Well, and I
mm,
mean, to be fair, I only burned the notes from like one particularly toxic person.
yes,
Um, and
you had my full support for that.
and um yeah, I think that for me, going through that stuff has been so important because I grew up with so much self-judgment and self-hatred, right? Like there's a I while we were talking about spirituality today, the concept of spiritual trauma, like, trauma is something that you can't process. And I heard it said once that I think spiritual trauma is when your inner critic is given the voice of God.
Ooh,
Okay. So when that's the
say
case,
that again. Repeat that.
so
That
spiritual trauma is when your inner critic has been given the voice of God. So when we think about emotions like guilt and shame, right?
Mhm,
Guilt says you
mhm,
did something bad, but you can make a different choice and be different going forward. Shame
mhm,
says you are bad. This is ingrained in something that is a part of you.
mhm,
So if your inner critic, that like judgment, is creating that shame response,
mhm,
then you don't stand a chance. And so when I was a kid, I didn't understand that for so
mhm.
many reasons. And so I didn't really understand the results I was getting in my life, like da 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 da. And so now to look back at it and be like, I have so much empathy for myself and so much
Yes.
compassion for myself.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
and that's the thing that, like, I don't know, helps me put it to bed.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
again, going through that was so important and going through it together to get more information, more pieces of the puzzle, to
Yes.
get more
And
context.
validation, and
Yes,
validation. Like, for
absolutely.
me, when I was going through everything I was going through, I felt like I needed to kinda gaslight you and the other girls into
Hmm.
what the situation was because I was so afraid of, like, you judging me for being in a
Hmm.
particular situation, but
Hmm.
being able to readdress it as adults and drop
Hmm.
that gaslighting and have you say, "We knew.
Hmm.
We saw through it."
Hmm.
Like, because a lot of the time back then, I felt like you guys were judging me and against me, and I was pathetic and whatever. But as an adult, to hear it from your perspective,
Hmm.
you remember it, and then to feel validated as, oh, my inner child was remembering it in a different way because that's just I was carrying the the perception of the inner child into my
Hmm.
adulthood. But
Hmm.
anyways.
Yep.
And I really think we need to do like a whole actual podcast episode on this. It'll be a little bit of a deeper episode. Um, but I also want to get into how it was really cool because you and Joe have known each other since we were about 13.
Hmm.
And I was thinking about this today how we could do a whole podcast episode just on yours and Joe's relationship just because of how cool it is that you guys ended up together. But there was
Yeah.
a lot in those notes, and a lot of what you were revealed in those notes about what was going on with Joe, who you were only talking to over the internet at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You had never met in person, but you had formed a
Mm-hmm.
bond. A lot of the things that were happening in your present day relationship were a reflection of what happened in the things that were written in those notes, and we went
Yes.
through them, and there's so much clarity,
Yes.
and I think that could deserves its whole own podcast episode because that was also like just mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's its own chapter. Let's
Hmm.
be honest.
It is.
Um,
When we
completely.
write our book,
Yeah.
as I take my sip of wine,
Dear Mallory.
dear Richard. Okay. I don't even
Um,
know what was my name. Was I Richard or were you?
no, wasn't it Terry and
Oh, Dear Terry was a book about
oh,
pen that we all, you, me, and Jesse and Janae all read and took from the library. Loved it.
I can't remember what the name of the people in the skit that we did when we were a child were. And in this skit, we because I have to give people context so they know what we're
I
joking
know.
about here. We can't just leave them hanging.
Sorry.
Mallory and I
Give
just
up your own
literally
context.
we literally just like sat on stools dressed like I believe baseball players to a degree, pretending
Boy.
that like, yeah, reading these letters back and forth. My dog is losing his shit at the door. I have to let him in. But I really want to say completely unrelated. Did you notice that the background, like I have like blonde hair and a brunette background, and you have brunette hair and a blonde background?
And it matches the tortured poet's aesthetic.
It does. We sepia. Okay, I gotta let my dog in. I'll be right back.
I'm just gonna keep talking.
Yes, do.
Is sepia brown and beige? I guess it is. I guess that is.
Oh my goodness.
Is this the puppy?
Yes, he's the one. He is the chattiest. Like he's. Do you hear him?
No, I can't hear him at all.
Oh my goodness. He's just.
Oh, oh, maybe that was a little squeak I heard.
Oh my lord.
Hey, listen, I'm taking this opportunity to switch. The term I was going to use just completely flew out of my head.
Change gears. Switch gears.
Switch gears, but it was another type of term like that. Anyways, we'll go with switch gears.
Here for it.
Um, okay. So all this to say, we were diehard NSYNC fans.
Yes.
We both naturally fought over Justin
We
Timberlake.
got so far from the topic.
We found our way back, and that's what's important, especially off the meds, the
Yes.
ADHD. Okay, so we were die-hard Justin Timberlake fans. Like at the age where you know it's impossible, but your heart's telling you that it can't be impossible because how could you feel this deeply? And how could love be this overwhelming if it wasn't anything that could actually happen? Anyways, we loved NSYNC. Um, Flash forward, Justin has had a few discrepancies in the public eye. I don't know. I don't know where Justine went.
Sorry, I
I
had
could.
to let the dog. I could hardly hear you over that chatty dog. Anyway, Justin has had discrepancies in the public eye as
Yes, these discrepancies. You know, do you, like
yes.
yes.
So
So
my understanding,
well,
yeah.
with Janet and the titty incident,
Hmm.
there was him cheating on Jessica Biel allegedly while she was pregnant.
Hmm.
Um, and these are things that it allegedly in air quotes, but he's come out and apologized for them, which means they happened.
Yes.
He
So basically, like Justin, the height of his fame happened in a time when like white men could do whatever they wanted. Like straight white men, you are a
right,
god because you exist. Like, and so
right.
they got away with a lot of things when women were villainized for it.
Yes.
And so
I
now
think
there's
the
accountability
saddest
for
thing
those
is
things.
I think the saddest thing is they perfectly conducted him to be everything that's opposite of that. He was the boy next door,
Mm-hmm.
right? Dating the girl next door. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Britney was the girl next door, and they villainized her because she became a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I read, I listened to the audiobook of The Woman
Mm-hmm.
in Me. I think that's what it's called, her memoir.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Michelle Williams narrates it.
Mm-hmm.
She pulls off Britney's voice so closely to the point that at sometimes I wondered, okay, is this actually Michelle Williams? Because this sounds exactly like it was frightening at times. But anyways, I took it with a grain of salt because if you
Mm-hmm.
see who Britney is on her social media,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard to pair that up with the words that were written in this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all very bizarre. The whole Britney Spears situation is very bizarre. But she goes over her entire relationship with Justin. She's very respectful of him. She doesn't trash him. She
Mm-hmm.
just spells out fact for fact what happened.
Mm-hmm.
They were in Vegas and she overheard one of her backup dancers or his backup dancers talking about how Justin was out at the club and he was cheating on Britney the night before. Like she overheard those things and
Mm-hmm.
like numerous times. And then of course there was the whole he made her get an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all these things that are piling up on Justin that don't look so good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my inner conflict, and this is what I said to you in text,
Mm-hmm.
is I listened to his album,
Mm-hmm.
really liked it. There's some really great beats on there,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm so conflicted because I feel like everyone deserves a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was a kid at one time, people grow up. But if I've looked back on his public apologies, and if I've looked back at him actually acknowledging and accepting what he did, it's never felt authentic. It has always felt like
PR.
I need to save my ass.
Mm-hmm.
So
The
I'm gonna
PR apologies.
exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, okay, so my sister got tickets to go see him. And this was huge. It was a huge moment for her to be able to tell me she got Justin Timberlake tickets because she was also a diehard NSYNC fan. When we were kids, she used to tell me that Justin was hers because I was too young and he was closer to her age. So if he ever met us, it would hands down, they would be an item. Anyways, so when she
So
Mhm.
like off brand for stuff, young
Pardon?
stuff. I said that's so off brand for young stuff to say something like that.
No, yeah, really. Jeez.
I love your sister.
Oh my gosh. I know, but she definitely does play the older sister part, and I love her for it.
100%.
um,
But she
so
got the tickets. Yep.
I felt bad because I couldn't be genuinely happy for her because she had said if you lived she lives in Tampa and she had said if you lived here we could go together and I honestly was like to be quite honest I don't know that I would go. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like
Mm-hmm.
he's the type of person that deserves my money or my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if his apologies were more genuine, I would
Mm-hmm.
reconsider. Um, so it's been conflicting because since all that, like he's put out his album and there's a song on it that he does with NSYNC, which also rubs me the wrong way because it's
Mm-hmm.
never NSYNC now. It's
Mm-hmm.
Justin featuring NSYNC.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, you are NSYNC. If
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna sing with JC, Joey, Lance, and Chris, you're NSYNC.
Yeah, call it. It's Justin with sync.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, the pretentiousness gets to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's very narcissistic, which is a hard thing
Mm-hmm.
for me to grasp when my
Mm-hmm.
inner child is dancing to the song Better Place and now belting out the song Paradise in my car because I'm like, Mallory, get a grip. He's not no strings attached Justin anymore. I mean, he is. He's
Or
always
actually, he still is the problem.
exactly, but
Yeah.
he's
So, yeah, the thing that really gets me is, and like what makes apologies feel performative is the behavior that comes afterwards. So it's like if you're going to like take responsibility for something that you did wrong and be accountable to better behavior going forward, then be better.
yeah,
But to go on stage live and be like, I want to officially apologize to like motherfucking
Yes.
nobody.
Yes.
Like, so what that
Ah,
tells me is that in the moment that your ego is being fed, which is
yeah.
what being on stage is,
Yeah.
then you cannot resist but do that. And so,
And you're not really sorry.
no, you're not. You're not at
Like
all. You're
everything
not
that you
sorry.
said before, yeah. Yeah, you literally just told us all that you don't need to apologize, which
Yeah.
completely voids out
Negates. Yep.
any of your PR apologies in the past.
Yeah.
All of the apologies you made to women in general because of what you've done in the past to disrespect women,
Yep. Yep.
there's so
So
disappointing.
my my workaround morally for myself would probably be to get the CD potentially used if I could, and
Mhm.
then I can still listen to the music without it really adding to. That's how I
Yeah.
actually got some of the stolen versions of Taylor's CDs that had been
Where's
like
LimeWire when we need it?
100%. Give me a good old Napster.
Like
Like,
some singers and artists do deserve to have to be on LimeWire.
mhm, 100%.
Is that
But
it?
like, but yeah, as far as like what other people do, it's just kind of like I think that we all make the choices that we make. No one's perfect.
No.
And
No one's perfect, but everybody should have a solid head on their shoulders to correct the mistakes they've made in the past.
yeah, and I do think that the way that we direct our dollars does matter and have an impact. Like there's so few things
Yes.
that we can control in the world, and one of the things that we can control is like where we give
We
our
support
attention and money, our time,
financially.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Not to
hard.
get political, but
No.
yeah.
No, it's I mean everything's political, let's be honest. But
I
um
no, like I needed to just hash that out with you because like
mhm.
we were die-hard Justin fans. Like he was sharing, it's been so nostalgic to watch him because I do follow him on Instagram. I think I actually may have just unfollowed him, but I was following him on Instagram and all he's popping up more frequently because he's putting out
Mhm.
this album and the algorithm is algorithming.
Mhm.
And like he he made a shirt for his Justin tour and it was yellow. And as he was packaging up the box, he says, "Oh, they're my favorite color, yellow." And then a slew of fans, yeah, I know
It's
exactly.
blue
Exactly. When your head shot back there, like, what?
for the
And
Tar Heels.
no. So in the comments, there's all these like millennial women going, "Excuse me? What happened to Baby Blue? Justin, who are you?" Right? And then he released the NSYNC shirts and then made a
Yeah.
post about how he was like, there it is. And he's like, Baby Blue, had to save the Baby Blue from my NSYNC shirts. And I was like, oh. And for a second, I was smitten and I was like, there he is. But then I was like,
Mm.
no, it's fake. It's all fake, Mallory. He knows how to play you.
I know the curtain's been pulled back and
Yeah,
we
I
see the
know.
real him. So, yeah, all of that to say, I try to cut celebrities a lot of slack for the judgment and scrutiny that they're under,
Mhm.
because I would never be able to navigate that.
No, and you're
But
gonna say things that are gonna be politically incorrect or
for sure.
infuriate the wrong group of people or offend somebody because if nobody offended anybody ever, we would not be human.
Yeah, it's just excuse me, I just had to burp.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and it's like I mean offending people is one thing, making people uncomfortable is one thing. When you're actually like causing harm to somebody else, like then
Yeah.
that's a little and so that again, that's where it's like your apology is just the beginning, but like what you do next is what really matters. And that's part of I mean why I just keep listening to Taylor because she is not completely unproblematic, but like I think she tries to take a careful next step.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. On the
That
note of
but
what?
that was a lot.
That
I feel
was
like
a
I
lot.
got a lot out there in however long this has been. I've lost track of time. But
Time is a
no,
construct.
my wine is gone. That's the second time I've heard that today. Time is a construct.
It's real. That's true.
That's true.
It is. It's
Hey,
made up. Yep.
when you're having a good time, what is time?
When you have ADHD,
Yeah.
really. Um, yeah,
It's going to be a podcast that covers 736 topics.
kind of wrapped up in a few bows with a couple of pieces of tape and staples here and there. Yeah, and on that note, I think we're gonna wrap up this edition. Before we completely sign off though, I want to say thank you to Leanna0000 on YouTube for our first non-troll comment.
Although
Leanna
we are
says,
very excited we got a troll comment because
I
that
know.
means we made it within our first week.
It's like bingo. I think we need to start like podcasters bingo. So we have a
Ah,
troll comment and we have a fan comment. Leanna says, I love this one about our desperation for reputation. I look forward to your podcast every time you post a new one. Thank you, Leanna. We were basically talking to you this whole time, so we hope you enjoyed today's episode too.
yeah.
And that's a wrap for this week with the tortured porrits.
I thought you said toe Dutch. And I was like, excuse me?
I didn't even finish my beer, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
it for
time to
this
sign off.
this episode of the Tortured Poets podcast.
The drunken tortured
You
poets, apparently.
so the tipsy tortured poets, the tipsy poets. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Or no,
Bye.
not if we do it next week. We'll see you next time.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
we don't like to make any commitments.
No. Okay, bye.
Bye.